try to give you a breakdown of what's going on. All right? Okay. So what is pending right now in the Senate is a bill. It's called Senate Bill 1376. And what Senate Bill 1376 is it is a it's called the Family First Transition and Support Act, which is what are the things that need to be done to the Family First Act that passed in February 2018 to help the states transition using their Title IV money to rehabilitation and family support, as opposed to using it to terminating parental rights. I mean, that is our goal here, to reduce the number of children in foster care and to reduce the financial incentives for putting children in foster care. We've had some tragic foster care stories with us. It's important to tell those. It's always tough to do. We had about 8 people in our meetings, and it's really, you only get 30 minutes, and it's really hard for everybody in 30 minutes and, to go around, tell their story. And this is why it's so important, and this is why I have told you over and over and over to do yourself a 3-minute story and a 10-minute story. You have got to get it down to a 3-minute story and a 10-minute story. So if you can make it, either you're working with your state legislators or whether you're working with, you can make it to DC at some point, you've got to be able to tell that story. Just like if you ever watch a congressional hearing, they always have an opening statement written out. You've got to do it. You've got to sit down and write it. And what is the important thing about writing out your stories? A lot of your stories have a lot of important, thank you, Jenny, for posting that. A lot of stories have a lot of detail. Oh my gosh. And I understand that because I'm an attorney and I work in it every day. But here's the important thing. There are themes that are repeated over and over and over. Those themes are intimidating and interrogating our children, keeping children in foster care longer than they should be, wrongfully removing them and putting them in foster care, lying, social workers lying, not getting children returned home, even if the parents do comply with services. So those are the kinds of themes that we see over and over and over. And those are the things that we've got to make sure that they understand. You all know that I did your books, and I'm using them. So they're very, very heavy because they're 156 pages. So I could only bring like 7 books with me. We passed out today. We left a book with Wyden and with Grassley. Those are the 2 leaders of the Senate Finance Committee, which is a lot of where the bill is going to be funded. So we gave them, and then I left one with my Senator Marsha Blackburn's office, and then my Senator Lamar Alexander's office. So this morning at 9 o'clock this morning, Whitney and I went to the Tennessee Tuesday breakfast, and we were able to talk to Senator Marsha Blackburn. And she, I can tell the story. I'm on point. I've got my own 3-minute spiel down where I can get people to understand what the problems and the issues are. And then if I have the opportunity to ask a few more questions or tell a little bit more about how the problems are, it's so important that I can do that. And they get it. We get that in their head. You just tell them over and over and over. And I hate to say this, like it's like a child telling your child, don't eat sugar, don't eat sugar, don't eat sugar. But it's really pretty much like that. So you're telling them Title IV funding is a problem. Title IV funding is a problem. Title IV funding is a problem. You tell them over and over and over. You tell them children are wrongfully being removed and put in foster care and extended and forced adoptions. Children losing their identity, and we're losing our families as a nation. They're beginning to hear that story. They're beginning to get it. Remember, there are 114 lobbyists in Washington, D.C. lobbying for foster care because they know it's profitable. They want that money. So we went in and we had meetings today. Here's what we did. We looked up the bill, and I'm going to go over it with you again. I talked about it yesterday. You need to go to congress.gov. Congress.gov. You need to set yourself up an account on congress.gov. This is one of the most important things that you can do. And then when you get into congress.gov, you want to look up S is in Sam, 1376. And when you find it, you're going to be able to save your search. So you want to do that. And when you click on the bill, and then you want to get alerts on the bill. And it's going to, every time there's changes or it goes to committee, you'll be able to get those alerts in your email and watch what's going on. There are some specific things that we're asking them to take a look at. One of them is we would love for them to defund ASFA, defund the adoption bonuses. Very, very difficult to do. I don't know how we're going to get the adoption bonus money removed. It may take an executive order. Somehow we've got to do that. But we're really talking about how those funds are redirected into family drug rehabilitation, family services, kinship placement, etc., and that we get support for those as opposed to giving all this money to private contractors, because we know that's where all the money's going. So we had, so what we did is we made a list of all the people on the Senate Finance Committee. And I sat down, I made that list, and I sorted that list by building, because there are 3 Senate buildings. There's the Dirksen building, the Russell building, and the Hart building. So I sorted them out by buildings, and this morning we took the Dirksen building, and actually there were about 10 senators on the 5th floor. So we took our group, I posted a lot of the pictures, and we went around to all the 5th floor senators. And here's what we say, is we say that we have a grassroots movement for child welfare reform. We're representing people from all the states, over 13,000 members, and we're asking for the scheduler and the legislative assistant who is responsible for the child welfare issues, foster care issues, health and human services issues. Every Senate office does it a little bit different. So some of the Senate offices, like Senator Grassley, he has a legislative aide that is specifically for foster care, and he understands it, and he understands the Title IV-E and how perverted it is and tilted towards foster care. One of the messages that I gave over and over and over today, thank you, Jenny, for posting that. One of the things that we talked about over and over and over today was the conflicts of interest. There are conflicts of interest within the agency itself, which means that you have an agency that's acting as a prosecutorial agency as well as trying to act as a service agency. And there is an inherent conflict of interest in that. And so they have to, and the federal government does have control over that, because under 42 USC 671 is where they talk about CAPTA. 42 USC 671. If you'd type that up there, somebody, I'd appreciate it. Because if you go to 42 USC 671, you can look it up on the internet, and it tells you about the state plan. And the state plan goes through the things that they have to have in place to be able to receive the federal funding. And that includes things like the guardian ad litem, the contrary to the welfare of the child, the interstate compact, etc. So under 42 USC 671, they can implement a part of that, or they can add that, because we did find out today that CAPTA is being revisited. And they can put in within the CAPTA state plan that the states are required to make a prohibition against conflicts of interest within their state agency and within all their contract services. So that means that no longer would a big, huge foster care service like Omni be able to provide you reunification services. If they're going to be in the foster care business, that's going to be their limitation, because that is totally just in total conflict of reunification. So we talked a lot about conflicts. 42 USC 673 is the adoption assistance money, and it gives the parameters for the adoption assistance. What we are looking at today, and while we're here, is S 1376 and where that's going to go and what's going to happen as to implementing the Families First Preservation and Services Act. The Families First Preservation and Services Act, which sometimes you will hear me say the FFPSA, just a little easier, FFPSA. That is, thank you, Patrick, for putting that up there. Thank you. Yes, download the text when you get that. Patrick's put the link to the text. Download that text and read through it. One of the things that's a little bit disappointing to me is that it's just really kind of throwing some more cash at the problem. And that's not really what we need, because what they have in the bill now is like $664 million. And that's nothing compared to the $9 billion used for foster care. So we've really got to have that redirect some of those funds. Excuse me. All right. So we talked about conflicts. Let me think. Parent representation. We had some discussions about parent representation. There's one recommendation that Title IV-E contain vouchers so that parents can hire their own attorneys. I'm just going to tell you personally, I'm not totally excited about that Because one of the biggest problems with parent representation is that there's no consistency, and there's no training, and there's nobody doing oversight. There's nobody to report to. There's no support system in place. What we really need to do with parent representation is it needs to look not exactly like a public defender's office, because I think they're inefficient too, but we need to have some type of single source agency that can do the training, that can do the support services, that can make sure subpoenas get out, that can make sure that the facts are all laid out for the attorneys, because we've got our states have many, many counties. I know Tennessee has 99, I think Florida has 67. We're going to have attorneys all over the state, and they're not going to be able to devote as much time as they do to some of their other cases, so they got to have the equipment to do what they want to do and what they need to do. So that's my view on that. So parent representation is something that's really being watched by the American Bar Association, and so at least we've got that on your side. And I know a lot of people are very, very critical of the American attorneys and the Bar Association, and they're all a bunch of criminals, and I understand. But you need to know that the American Bar Association is making movement in the right direction on that. You just need to watch what's going on. I also told them that as far as standards for parent representation, that the ABA does have a set of standards for parent representation that could easily be incorporated into the federal legislation as to the requirements for a trained parent representative council. Okay, so we need oversight committees, and we really didn't even get to talk about that a whole lot. However, I will say that one of the reps said that we needed to go to the OIG and do try to get an investigation opened at the OIG for how the monies are being used. And I think especially where there's conflicts, this is something that we need to take a look at. Remember, the OIG, the Inspector General's office, is our Office of the Inspector General. The Office of the Inspector General is about looking after how our money is being spent. That is their purpose, and whether federal regulations are being followed. So we spent some time doing that. Now, let me look at my little notebook here, because I want to make sure I cover as much as I can. I have to leave tomorrow about 1 o'clock, so one thing I'm going to try to do is to go hit some more of the senators' offices in the Senate Finance Committee. We were also, and you just pick up bits of information from all of these committees. One of the things that we found out is that there is a House committee. It's actually a subcommittee of the House Ways and Means, and it is the committee that is going through the kind of the markup and the changes in the drafting. And we're going to try to buzz by there tomorrow and maybe meet the people in that, the instrumental people in that office as well. So it's really a Senate bill, but of course it has to go through the House before it goes to the Senate for passage. As most of you should know, if you are politically keen on what's going on, the House is the majority are Democrats, and the Senate, the majority are Republicans. The good thing that we have about child welfare, it is truly a bipartisan litigation. You know, Republicans tend to want smaller government, more oversight and smaller government. Democrats want more social justice and government in more control. So we have a little bit of a conflict there, but I think everybody has realized at this point that foster care is dysfunctional. Children are more likely to be in prison, less education, lower incomes, have their own families targeted. It's just bad outcomes. There can be no dispute trafficking and ending up in trafficking. So there is, thank you, Farrell. I'll make sure I get out of here by about 1:30 tomorrow. So we want to make sure that we are trafficking that's become so huge. They can no longer ignore the fact that children who age out of foster care and have no family, have nobody to turn to, they're victims. They're in crisis, and those are the children that have lost everything. They've lost their families. They've had no representation to what they want out of their life, and now they're turned out on the streets. And as a stipend, which is really, I call it a reparation, because you know, they get $400 a month until they turn like 21, 22, 23 years old. I call it a reparation. It's supposedly a subsidy or a stipend for them to be able to adjust to adulthood, but I'm just telling you, it's a reparation. We screwed up your life. You have no family left. You have nobody to contact. We're going to throw this money at you, taxpayer money. So that is, I'm going to show you just a little bit so you kind of see how I organize. So this is what I did. This is the Senate Finance Committee. So you can see I put down their party, their name, their state, and their room. And what I was able to buy for $15, which is just awesome, which is really a necessary part of citizen lobbying, is this like comprehensive state-by-state guide on everybody. This book, oh my gosh, it's so awesome. Also has like the calendar in it, the committees, etc. So that is the book that I use to be able to put these lists together. So we have, those are the ones, you can see 513, 528, those were all on the 5th floor. The ones with the check marks are the ones we all called on. Then there's another building that's called the Russell Building. We have to try to go by there today. And then there's the Dirksen Building. So we have an appointment. You can see like we have an appointment set up at 1 tomorrow. And we had an appointment this morning, Tuesday at 10:30. I have given your books to, let me get to that. So what I've done with the books so far is we have Lamar Alexander's office, Senator Wyden's office, Senator Blackburn's office, and Senator Grassley's office has your books in hand. And I have also, Kathleen Arthur wants to make sure she has a book because she's looking for patterns within the state agencies that she can articulate and report. And then I've got about 2 or 3 books left. Like I said, they're really heavy. Paper, if you ever tried to carry around reams of paper, you know how heavy paper is. So I couldn't bring that many. And what I'm going to look at is getting some books actually bound so that I can either ship them up there ahead of time, and I think I have a location I may be able to ship them, so either ship them ahead of time so that we can just start passing them out. And and I just tell them, I'm like, look, we have families from all over the nation, and that's how I speak for you. Because although I'm very knowledgeable on what the problems are, I have to speak for the voice of many. When you come up and you look and you seek legislation, you got to have 1 or 2 things. You got to have numbers, or you got to have dollars. And of course, we don't have the dollars, and so we have to have the numbers. We have to have the votes, and so that if we put out to them that the votes are out there, if you will support it, that will make a difference. Okay, so I want you to be politically active. I want you to watch what's going on. You are the voice. You are the new voice of America, and as much as I can, I speak for you, as much as I can do that. Now, in summary, I'll say, again, as you know, Family Forward Project is a public group. I am taking our live videos, I'm downloading them to my phone, I'm uploading them to YouTube, I'm tagging some of the key things such as Child Protective Services, DCS reform, child welfare reform. We're getting a few views, those, and we're getting more people added to Facebook. Facebook is our primary forum. It's just the best forum to use right now, where I don't have to charge people a membership fee, and they can be part of it and they can post their stories. I noticed today that we got like 500 new members. See that person there?
How are you?
Photo bomb.
That's what it was.
All right, you might as well come down here now. So I just got photo bombed by Miss Kathleen. Y'all know her. So, and I don't know if I showed you. We are sitting out here on the street in DC. I'm just going to show you here for a minute. So we are here on the street, but it's really just the best place to be right now. So, and I forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, so I forgot what I was going to say, so I'm going to let her speak a little bit so you can hear from her too, because I'm sure she's excited about what we got accomplished today.
Hi guys, this is Kathleen Arthur, and I am so proud of everybody who went and everybody who called in and everybody who supported us. It's an unknown when you start off something like this. It's going to actually work. It's just an act of faith, right? But that's how you make change, is that you walk toward it. You figure out what you want and you just go to it. Mm-hmm. And so we've broken the mold on how normal citizens approach their Congress, and we found a really good way to do it. Most people just come once, if they come at all. And that is not making change happen. So they know we're here. They know we're not going to stop coming until this gets taken care of. And we're really getting a super receptive reception. the best thing today, in my mind, that has happened is that when we had our second meeting with the Wyden team, they told us that at the next meeting, they were going to have their legal counsel in there so we could start drafting legislation. Yay! I'm so excited about that. I cannot tell you. We're going to accomplish at least part of what, we've set out to do. We're going to start the process for change that is citizen driven, that will help children. That is just completely our goal, and we're getting that way. And anyway, our next foray